Have you ever heard of an ocean mystery so strange that it feels like we're peering into an alien world right here on Earth? Scientists exploring the warming seas have started to notice an eerie phenomenon. Adult fish and many mature marine creatures seem to vanish, while their larvae multiply and swarm in overwhelming numbers, covering vast stretches of water like ghostly veils. It's as if the ocean's rulers are no longer the familiar fish and mammals we know, but rather creatures stuck in eternal youth. Imagine the implications. What if evolution is rewiring life so that adulthood, the stage we usually think of as the pinnacle of development, becomes obsolete? The future ocean might belong to larval giants, preying and thriving without ever growing up, reshaping ecosystems in ways we can barely comprehend. This strange reversal is rooted in a biological phenomenon called neoteny, the retention of juvenile traits into adulthood. Some animals, instead of maturing into an adult form, hang onto their youthful features and behaviors. Think of the axolotl, the famous salamander that lives its entire life underwater with gills like a baby fish, never transforming into the land-dwelling creature its relatives become. Even some jellyfish have this startling ability to revert back to a polyp stage, essentially turning back the clock to youth when under stress. In times of environmental upheaval, this ability can be a survival superpower. When the oceans warm and oxygen levels drop, smaller, simpler larval bodies demand less food and oxygen, making them better suited to the harsh new conditions. Could the future ocean be a world ruled by these eternal juveniles? But why would nature favor never growing up? It's an unsettling idea because, in our world, growing stronger and more complex as you mature feels like progress. Yet, in a changing oceanic landscape buffeted by climate change and pollution, simplicity often wins. Larval forms are masters of adaptability. They glide through the waters with translucent bodies, difficult for predators to spot, and they feed efficiently on microscopic plankton blooms that now thrive in warmer waters. Their small size allows them to exploit niches inaccessible to the big adults, and their rapid reproductive cycles enable swarms to explode in population overnight. This biological strategy isn't just about survival. It's about domination in an ecosystem that punishes complexity and rewards the ability to stay small and efficient. No one expects to see an ocean where life seems trapped in a permanent childhood, but the signs are growing. Scientists using submersibles and drones to peer through warming waters report vast curtains of ghostly larvae shimmering beneath the waves. These swarms are made up of creatures that should be tiny and temporary, yet they persist, forming massive, self-sustaining populations that never reach mature forms. Some jellyfish species, known for their ethereal glow and delicate forms, have begun showing signs of reproducing while still in larval states, creating a shadowy underworld of aquatic juveniles. This eerie phenomenon pushes us to question the rules of life as we know them. Are these creatures evolutionary experiments or warnings of what's to come if the ocean's chemistry and temperature continue to shift? Imagine the entire food web unraveling as these phantom swarms rise. Traditional adult fish, larger predators, and marine mammals find themselves outmatched by this microscopic, gelatinous tide. It's like an ancient horror story rewritten in the language of biology. The hunters become the hunted, not through brute force but through sheer numbers and evasiveness. The energy that once fed great whales and sharks is trapped in a low-level world of tiny, drifting organisms. The seas turn into a vast soup of translucent bodies, pulsing softly with bioluminescence, and the creatures that once dominated now merely dodge this new reality. Such ecological upheaval challenges everything scientists thought they knew about marine life stability and balance. As this world of eternal larvae expands, eerie adaptations emerge in response. Some larval forms grow to surprising sizes, becoming what could be called larval giants. These creatures maintain their juvenile shapes but grow to enormous scales, appearing as ghostly leviathans drifting through twilight depths. Picture a translucent behemoth the size of a whale, pulsing gently with the slow rhythm of life but never shedding its larval form. Its body simple yet vast, a silent titan of the new ocean order. Others form vast colonies, where billions of tiny predators act in coordinated hunting swarms, their collective movements stirring currents and reshaping habitats in ways that feel more alien than earthly. These are no longer just juvenile creatures but apex jelly-like rulers of an underwater realm that feels both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. This transformation traces deep evolutionary roots. Scientists speculate that early vertebrates themselves might have been neotenic larvae that gained the upper hand by never fully growing up, evolving complex life from the simplicity of the juvenile state. In this sense, the future ocean's larval giants are both a throwback to primordial life and a leap forward into unknown evolutionary territory. Could such a world reveal new insights into the flexibility and resilience of life? Or does it signal a biological apocalypse where traditional life forms are supplanted by ephemeral, ghost-like creatures thriving in an environment reshaped by human impact? The ambiguity of these prospects adds a haunting edge to scientific discovery. So, when you look at the ocean next time, beneath the sparkling surface, imagine ghosts in the water, billions of tiny, translucent forms dancing on eternal currents, never growing old, never settling, ruling a world turned upside down. This is not science fiction but an emerging reality. The ocean's secret future written in the language of genes and survival. The creatures that once flashed vibrant colors as adults now haunt the seas as eternal infants. Their rule silent, spectral, and absolute. What mysteries will they unveil about survival, adaptation, and the fragile thread of life itself? The ocean is changing, and with it, the story of life rewrites itself in the ages-long game between growth and endurance. Imagine an ocean where the tiniest creatures hold more power than the giants that once ruled the waves. The secret to this lies in an astonishing evolutionary advantage. The larvae. These early life stages, often overlooked and underestimated, might actually be the key players in the ocean's future. When we think of growth and survival, adulthood seems like the ultimate prize, but in the marine world, especially in a warming, shifting climate, staying young can be a game-changer. Larval forms are nimble, adaptable, and built to survive in conditions harsher than those that adults endure. In fact, in many ways, living as a larva grants advantages perfectly tailored to the challenges of modern oceans. What if this juvenile stage isn't just a phase but a whole new way of life that nature is increasingly favoring? Larval creatures are tiny by design, yet this smallness is a superpower in the ocean's changing landscape. Their reduced size means they need surprisingly little food compared to adults, making them more resilient when resources grow scarce due to shifting currents or pollution. Warmer temperatures, while stressful for many large marine species, actually enhance the metabolism of some larvae, enabling faster growth and quicker development during their pelagic phase. That is, as they drift in the open water. Scientists have observed this phenomenon in coral reef fishes, where larvae exposed to warmer, nutrient-rich waters grow faster and settle sooner, a clear evolutionary leg up. Speed is survival when the ocean turns hostile. The larval stage becomes an adaptation not just for survival but for thriving amidst the chaos. The environment itself seems to favor these juveniles. Oxygen levels in warm water drop, creating zones that make survival difficult for many fully grown sea creatures accustomed to abundant oxygen. But larvae, with their smaller bodies and simpler systems, cope better in oxygen-depleted zones. They can exploit niches unreachable for adults, slipping through and colonizing areas others cannot. These zones even become larval nurseries, bustling with microscopic life and offering larvae a buffet of planktonic feed. In a way, larvae are the ultimate survivors, small, swift, and able to turn the harshest environments into playgrounds for growth. This stark resilience raises compelling questions. Could the ocean's future be one dominated by simpler, smaller life forms, rather than the massive, complex animals we expect? Even reproduction itself bends toward the larval advantage. Some marine species are evolving to reproduce earlier, in juvenile or larval form, skipping full maturation. This means they can propagate their kind faster, perpetuating the larval lifestyle. Certain jellyfish and salp species already demonstrate this, spawning larvae that morph quickly and reproduce, all while retaining youthful characteristics. For them, growing into a cumbersome adult form would only mean vulnerability. The atmosphere surrounding these phantom larvae swarmings hints at something mysterious, almost otherworldly. They drift in translucent, undulating masses, almost invisible except for the shimmer of bioluminescence, filling the water like ancient whispers of an evolving oceanic nightmare. This reproductive strategy of larval persistence presents a strange and profound ecological shift. Traditional food webs rely on predator-prey balances, adults hunting juveniles and other prey to sustain population checks. But when larvae remain dominant, these balances unravel. Adult predators find themselves struggling, unable to catch these evasive swarms that seem more ghost than fish. Energy that once climbed the food chain to feed the ocean's giants now traps itself in vast clouds of tiny forms, swirling endlessly. The very structure of marine life is degrading into an eerie gelatinous ocean where traditional life seems displaced and ephemeral juveniles rule, posing an intriguing yet unsettling vision of nature, adapting in real time to a brutal world. Scientists monitoring this shift have uncovered further clues in the larvae's adaptability to heat stress, a growing threat linked to climate change. Coral larvae, for example, show increased tolerance when preconditioned with heat-resistant microalgae, offering a glimmer of hope amid devastation. This biological partnership allows larvae to better endure thermal shocks, crucial as marine heat waves become more frequent. However, not all larvae benefit equally. Food scarcity and acidifying waters can negate their heat tolerance advantage, adding to the mysterious complexity of their survival puzzle. This fragile balance between adaptation and vulnerability makes the larval stage a poignant symbol of the ocean's precarious future. A struggle etched in microscopic forms battling against relentless environmental change. The larval phase can also shorten drastically in warmer waters, a phenomenon observed in multiple fish species where larvae complete their development and settle sooner. This accelerated life cycle may be an evolutionary bet on quantity over quality, favoring rapid population booms to outpace dwindling survival odds. Yet, this rapid growth comes with risks. Larvae that mature too quickly might miss critical developmental windows, leading to weaker adults in the future. The question remains, could the ocean's future be one of fleeting triumphs and hidden fragility? Or is this pace setting a sign of resilience, nature's remarkable ability to bend and evolve when faced with existential threats? So next time you gaze out at the ocean's vastness, consider the invisible drama unfolding beneath the surface. Larvae could be the unsung rulers of tomorrow's seas, their survival strategies weaving a complex tapestry of mystery and hope. These tiny warriors of the waters embody nature's ingenuity, thriving by staying forever young in a world growing ever more hostile. Their story compels us to rethink what it means to grow, survive, and dominate. Could eternal youth be the ultimate evolutionary edge? The ocean's future dances delicately on the slender bodies of its larval inhabitants, inviting us to watch closely as life's oldest stage takes center stage. Deep beneath the waves, something ghostly is stirring in the warming oceans, forming vast, shimmering curtains that drape across the water column like spectral veils. These aren't ordinary schools of fish or flocks of birds, but enormous swarms of larval creatures, translucent and ethereal, pulsing with a faint, otherworldly glow. Marine biologists peering through submersibles have captured footage of these phantom assemblies, stretching for kilometers, defying the natural order where larvae should be fleeting and insignificant. What force is binding them together in such unnerving unity, turning temporary juveniles into persistent dominators of the deep? In a climate-altered sea, these swarms emerge as harbingers of change, their sheer scale evoking a quiet dread of an ecosystem slipping into the unknown. Could these living clouds be the new architects of ocean life, reshaping reality from the shadows? Picture the scene. Diverse and remotely operated vehicles glide into twilight zones where visibility fades, only to encounter walls of minuscule bodies undulating in perfect, hypnotic synchrony. These larval swarms, composed of fish, jellyfish, and invertebrate offspring, form through a mix of ocean currents and chemical signals that draw them into colossal aggregations. Unlike the chaotic scatter of plankton, these formations exhibit eerie coordination, rising and falling like a single massive organism breathing in the abyss. Scientists note how warming waters accelerate larval development, prolonging their planktonic phase and amplifying swarm sizes beyond anything observed before. The mild horror lies in their invisibility to the naked eye, detectable only by sonar echoes or bioluminescent flickers piercing the gloom. Are these gatherings mere survival tactics, or the prelude to a larval takeover? Jellyfish larvae, in particular, contribute to this spectral spectacle, their delicate polyps and ephyrae blooming into medusa-like forms without ever settling to the seafloor. Certain species bypass traditional life cycles entirely, developing reproductive organs while still in larval guise, spawning new generations mid-swarm. Salps join the fray, chaining into gelatinous colonies that propel through water like living conveyor belts, filtering plankton with mechanical precision. These holoplanktonic wanderers thrive in nutrient-rich upwellings spurred by climate shifts, their populations exploding as adult competitors falter. The water thickens with their presence, a translucent haze that muffles sound and light, creating an atmosphere of submerged isolation. What unspoken intelligence guides their mass formations, turning individuals into an unstoppable collective? From the surface, these swarms manifest as strange discolorations, vast milky patches reported by fishermen and satellite imagery alike. In regions like the Coral Triangle and Antarctic waters, climate-driven heat waves have triggered unprecedented larval pulses, overwhelming local ecosystems. Krill larvae, vital to the food chain, now swarm in contracted habitats, their densities spiking as sea ice retreats and waters warm. Fish larvae, too, linger longer in the plankton, their dispersal patterns warped by shifting currents and seasonal anomalies. This isn't random chaos but a calculated response to environmental pressures, where swarms become refuges against predators too large to infiltrate the gelatinous mass. The subtle horror creeps in as traditional marine life starves amidst plenty, blind to the feast locked within these impenetrable clouds. Submersible expeditions reveal the swarm's inner workings, bioluminescent signals flashing in patterns that might communicate danger or mating cues across the horde. Some larvae exhibit vertical migrations, ascending at dusk to feed and descending at dawn, dragging their swarm through layered ocean realms. This behavior, amplified by acidification and deoxygenation, positions swarms as conquerors of dead zones where adults perish. In New Zealand's coastal models, larval dispersal varies wildly by release timing and duration, yet swarms persist, self-recruiting with uncanny resilience. The emotional weight hits when you realize these aren't invaders from afar, but our own ocean's children, mutated by our emissions into something alien and relentless. How long before these phantoms blot out the familiar blue? The mild terror amplifies in the dark, swarms encroaching on fishing grounds, ensnaring nets in slippery tangles that yield no marketable catch. Predators like whales and sharks circle futilely, their massive jaws useless against prey that fragments and reforms instantly. Coral larvae, once hopeful settlers, now drift indefinitely in destabilized currents, their swarms a futile rebellion against bleaching heat. Yet within this doom lies awe-inspiring adaptation, swarms evolving to pulse and contract, evading sonar and human intrusion alike. Thought-provoking questions arise. If larvae can orchestrate such dominance, what hidden potentials lurk in the deep, waiting for the next climatic shove? The ocean whispers secrets through these ghostly veils, urging us to listen before it's too late. As night falls over the sea, bioluminescence ignites the swarms into living constellations, a mesmerizing yet macabre light show visible from shore. Each flash a tiny heartbeat in a colossal entity, sustaining itself through symbiotic bacteria that glow in oxygen-poor depths. Climate models predict more frequent megaswarms as phenology shifts, larvae hatching en masse during prolonged marine heat waves. This convergence challenges our understanding of marine ecology, where swarms become keystone phenomena dictating biodiversity and fisheries. The unknown beckons. Do these assemblies harbor emergent intelligence, or are they nature's blind algorithm for survival? Emotional undercurrents pull at us, blending wonder with unease at life's raw pivot toward the primordial. Gazing into the abyss, these phantom swarms redefine the ocean's narrative, from cradle of complexity to nursery of eternal youth. They drift onward, silent rulers veiling the seafloor in mystery, their presence a canvas for speculative futures both beautiful and bleak. Will they herald resilience or unraveling? The subtle horror lingers in their quiet conquest, a reminder that evolution favors the unseen, the small, the swarm. Curiosity stirs. What tales would these larval legions tell if they could speak? In their translucent unity, the future ocean gleams faintly, inviting awe and apprehension in equal measure, as the deep reclaims its enigmatic throne. As the phantom swarms of larval giants swell across the warming oceans, a terrifying cascade begins to unfold, rippling through every layer of marine life like a silent domino fall. Traditional predator-prey relationships, once the sturdy backbone of ocean ecosystems, start to crumble under the weight of these translucent hordes. Adult fish, sharks, and marine mammals that relied on hunting larger prey now face a frustrating void, their powerful jaws snapping at empty water where solid bodies once swam. Energy that flowed upward through the food chain gets trapped in the lower tiers, locked away in vast clouds of microscopic juveniles that slip through nets and teeth alike. The ocean transforms into a gelatinous haze, where the familiar blue gives way to a milky soup of eternal youth. What hidden forces are accelerating this unraveling, turning abundance into an impenetrable barrier? Could this be nature's grim response to our warming world, a biological reckoning whispered through the currents? Picture the apex predators circling futilely, their massive forms dwarfed by the sheer volume of these evasive swarms. Tuna and billfish, masters of the chase, find their speed useless against prey that disperses like mist at the slightest disturbance. Whales, once gorging on krill and small fish, now strain baleen through barren filters, their songs echoing hollow in depleted waters. Ocean acidification compounds the chaos, dissolving the calcium shells of crustaceans and mollusks that adults once devoured, leaving larval clouds unchallenged. Calcifying organisms like corals and pteropods suffer most, their skeletons weakening by 20 to 40% in acidified seas, per scientific syntheses. This dual assault, swarm dominance and chemical erosion, pushes the food web toward collapse. The mild horror seeps in as we realize these giants of the sea might starve amidst plenty, blind to the feast in the haze. Lower down, the dominoes topple faster. Herbivorous fish that grazed on algae now compete with larval filter feeders, siphoning the same microscopic bounty. Plankton blooms, supercharged by warmer waters, fuel the swarms but starve the adults dependent on seasonal pulses. Echinoderms and bivalves, already battered by pH drops, see larval stages dominate while grown forms wither, unable to build or repair their fragile armor. Mussels and oysters divert energy from growth to mere survival, their byssal threads weakening in acidic tides. This energy trap creates a feedback loop where larval reproduction outpaces adult recovery, perpetuating the gelatinous takeover. Emotional unease builds as familiar ocean dwellers fade, replaced by a shimmering veil that feels both alive and lifeless. Are we witnessing evolution's cold calculus, prioritizing simplicity over spectacle? The reshaping accelerates in deoxygenated dead zones, where adult metabolisms falter but larval efficiency reigns supreme. These low-oxygen pockets, expanding with climate shifts, become larval sanctuaries, their small bodies thriving where larger kin suffocate. Sea urchins and crabs dissolve protective shells to buffer internal acidity, trading defense for desperation. Pteropods, the tiny snails fueling salmon and whales, produce thinner shells that shatter easily, crashing populations up the chain. Coral reefs, foundational nurseries, bleach and erode, their calcified skeletons pitting like ancient ruins under acid rain from the sea. Larval swarms exploit these ruins, turning skeletal graveyards into breeding grounds. The unknown looms. How many species will vanish before this cascade stabilizes into a new, alien order? Fisheries feel the quake first, hauls dwindling as nets fill with worthless slime instead of fillets. Oyster farms on both coasts report die-offs, larvae failing to shell in pH crashes, costing millions in an industry blind to the chemical shift. Salmon, reliant on pteropod snacks, grow leaner, their runs weakening as the base erodes. This isn't isolated doom but a global rewrite, from Arctic krill contractions to tropical fish dispersals warped by heat. Thought-provoking shadows stir. If larvae inherit a throne built on adult bones, what legacy do we leave in our carbon wake? The subtle horror lies in the silence. No roars of protest, just the soft pulse of swarms claiming victory. Yet within this unraveling glimmers speculative wonder. Some fleshy algae and seagrasses might flourish in acidified waters, their photosynthesis boosted by excess CO2. Diatoms and certain fish show resilience, hinting at winners amid losers. Larvae of crustaceans often shrug off pH dips. Their non-calcified forms a natural armor. This trait-based variation suggests ecosystems might rebound, albeit transformed into something gelatinous and swarm-driven. Still, the emotional undertone chills, carryover effects from larval stress weaken future adults, perpetuating fragility. Imagine diving into this new sea. No vibrant reefs, just drifting veils and ghostly giants filtering the haze. Does adaptation spell hope, or merely delay the inevitable? Scientists model these cascades with growing alarm, predicting 15% drops in abundance for sensitive taxa by century's end. Heavily calcified life bears the brunt, survival plunging 27% in lab trials mimicking future seas. Growth stalls, development warps, and the ocean's carbon sink falters as shelled plankton dissolve. Energy reroutes to basal levels, starving higher trophic tiers and dimming biodiversity's glow. The mystery deepens. Will emergent larval superorganisms evolve, blurring lines between individual and collective? Horror tinges the awe as we grasp life's pivot from complexity to primordial haze, a throwback thriving in our toxic gift. This cascade effect unveils the ocean's fragility, a web trembling under human breath. Larval giants rise not as monsters but as logical heirs, their dominion a mirror to evolutionary whims. Questions haunt. Can we halt the acidification fueling this shift, or must we adapt to seas of eternal youth? The gelatin ocean beckons, mysterious and mild in its terror, inviting us to ponder survival's strange paths. Beneath the surface, life rewrites its rules, whispering of resilience wrapped in unease. Gaze deeper and feel the pull of the unknown, a future where the smallest claim the throne. Imagine a vast ocean where the once spectacular coral reefs, teeming with life and color, begin to fade into ghostly skeletons. This isn't the plot of a sci-fi nightmare. It's the unfolding reality of ocean acidification, a silent chemical assault reshaping marine habitats worldwide. The culprit behind this change is carbon dioxide, which dissolves into seawater forming carbonic acid, gradually lowering pH levels and making the oceans more acidic than they have been in at least 2 million years. This shift disrupts the delicate balance marine life relies on, especially those species dependent on calcium carbonate to build shells and skeletons. Creatures like corals, mollusks, and sea urchins find their hard defenses eroding, their growth stunted, and their survival jeopardized. But what does this mean for the fragile marine ecosystems and the giant larval swarms rising from their ashes? The process of acidification interferes with the availability of carbonate ions, essential building blocks for shells and exoskeletons. Marine organisms that cannot efficiently form or maintain these structures become vulnerable to predators and environmental stress. Scientific studies reveal reductions of 20 to 40% in calcification rates among corals and mollusks, a devastating blow to their ability to thrive. Coral larvae, critical to reef replenishment, struggle to produce the first layers of their skeletons, leading to increased mortality and hindering reef recovery. The consequences ripple through food webs, as corals serve as nurseries and shelter for countless species. This cascading impact reorders marine communities, with familiar habitats dissolving into skeletal graveyards beneath an acidified sea. Beyond corals, other calcifiers such as pteropods or sea butterflies face existential threats. These tiny planktonic snails, fundamental to polar and temperate ocean food chains, produce delicate shells rapidly dissolving in acidic waters. Their decline starves many fish and whale populations, threatening to unravel the energy flow in marine ecosystems. Mollusk larvae also show delayed development and decreased survival under low pH conditions, reducing recruitment success for species like oysters and clams. Economic impacts flow from these biological changes as oyster farms face massive die-offs, unable to replenish stock due to early shell formation failures. This underlines a harsh reality. Ocean acidification is not just an abstract problem, but a tangible crisis affecting biodiversity and human livelihoods. Interestingly, not all organisms suffer equally. Some species like crustaceans, certain fish, and fleshy algae display surprising resilience or even slight benefits from elevated CO2 levels. These organisms do not rely heavily on calcium carbonate structures and may exploit nutrient shifts favoring photosynthesis and growth. However, this imbalance spells trouble for marine biodiversity, potentially favoring simpler organisms that contribute less to ecosystem complexity. Imagine a future ocean dominated by algae and hardy crustaceans, while vibrant corals and shellfish vanish. The allure of such adaptation is shadowed by the loss of ecosystem services, from fisheries to coastal protection, illustrating nature's merciless trade-offs under stress. Many marine creatures attempt physiological adjustments to compensate for acidification. Mussels and crabs, for instance, dissolve parts of their shells to regulate internal acidity, but this compromises their defense and energy allocation. They face an exhausting dilemma: invest energy to maintain homeostasis or reduce growth and reproductive success. This struggle dampens their population growth over time, hinting at a fragility that threatens entire species. The metaphorical osteoporosis of the sea not only weakens shells but shakes the very foundation of marine food webs. This sets the stage for larval swarms to capitalize on the vacuum left by shrinking adult populations, morphing the sea into a gelatinous realm of eternal youth. Ocean acidification also interacts dangerously with other stressors like warming temperatures and deoxygenation, intensifying threats to marine life. Coral bleaching, triggered by heat stress, becomes more lethal when combined with acidic waters that undermine coral calcification and recovery. Dead zones expand as oxygen depletion climbs, favoring larval forms that survive better under low oxygen, while adults perish. This synergy accelerates ecosystem collapse, reshaping ocean habitats into unfamiliar, often inhospitable environments. Within these liminal zones, larval swarms find refuge and dominance, exploiting ecological niches abandoned by adults. What emerges is a haunting silhouette of survival, where life clings not in ostentatious grandeur, but in ghostly persistence. Scientists studying these changes use models and experiments to predict future ocean scenarios, revealing alarming declines in species abundance and diversity by century's end. Calcifying organisms, including corals and shellfish larvae, face up to 27% reductions in survival and growth under projected acidification levels. These decreases threaten fishery yields, carbon storage capacity, and ecosystem resilience. However, the story isn't all despair. Photoautotrophic organisms like seagrasses and some algae may flourish, their growth boosted by CO2 enrichment, providing some refuge and food for marine communities. Still, these gains come with ecosystem simplification, as complex habitats crumble into monochrome landscapes dominated by simpler life forms, a future tinged with both awe and unease. In this unfolding saga of ocean acidification, larval giants find a stage set by chemical transformation and biological upheaval. Their gelatinous forms drift through skeletonized reefs and oxygen-poor waters, outlasting species unable to keep pace with rapid changes. They embody resilience painted in translucent hues, mysterious and mildly terrifying as they reshape marine life's blueprint. Our intervention and mitigation efforts are critical to slow acidification and preserve the ocean's intricate balance, but the challenge is formidable. As we watch the sea's chemistry shift, we face urgent questions about survival, adaptation, and the future role of these haunting larval monarchs in a planet in flux. In the vast, creeping twilight of our oceans, a transformation stirs that few truly grasp, a slow, chemical shadow reshaping the very fabric of marine existence. Ocean acidification, the insidious twin of global warming, steadily lowers the sea's pH by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Far from a subtle shift, this process upends life forms reliant on calcium carbonate, the mineral magic key of coral skeletons, shells, and crustacean armor. Imagine these creatures as architects of the underwater realm, their structures the pillars supporting coral reefs, oyster beds, and entire food networks. As acidification escalates, these foundations dissolve, eroding biodiversity and unraveling food webs. This creeping fragility plays out silently, beneath waves that seem unchanged, yet harbor a brewing storm of biological collapse. What futures lurk in these deep waters, where chemical assaults clash with evolution's ancient rhythms? The effects of acidification ripple through marine organisms in profound ways. Lower carbonate ion availability starves shell-building creatures, forcing them into costly battles of survival where energy is diverted from growth to maintenance. Corals now labor to construct their airy skeletons, many bleached and brittle, vulnerable to storms and disease. Mollusks, from limp oysters to tiny pteropods, produce thinner, weaker shells that crack or dissolve in acidic waters, leaving them exposed to predators and environmental hazards. Larvae, the fragile seeds of future generations, often fail to develop protective casings, resulting in mass die-offs that strain population recovery. Studies estimate calcification drops of up to 40% in vulnerable species, while survival rates plunge as acidification intensifies. This skeletal dissolution goes beyond physical damage. It threatens carbon cycling, weakening the ocean's ability to sequester CO2 and amplifying climate change itself. Fish and crustaceans, though somewhat more resilient, are not immune to acidification's reach. Physiological stress from lowered pH compromises growth, immune responses, and reproductive success. Some mussels resort to dissolving their own shells partially to regulate internal acidity, a desperate trade-off between survival and defense. Crabs and sea urchins experience impaired shell formation and slower development, weakening their populations. For some species, energy spends more on balancing blood chemistry in acidic conditions, leaving less for muscle reproduction or escape responses. Acidification also disturbs sensory mechanisms. Olfaction and hearing degrade, disrupting predator avoidance and mating behaviors. This biochemical assault echoes through generations, potentially leading to long-term population declines. Are marine creatures evolving quickly enough to withstand this relentless acid tide, or does time run shorter than adaptability? Yet, amid these dire challenges, not all marine life suffers equally. Some species appear to benefit indirectly from increased CO2, such as certain types of seaweeds and seagrasses, which photosynthesize more aggressively in carbon-rich waters. Diatoms and other algae may flourish, potentially supporting some filter feeders and planktonic larvae. Crustaceans and fish often show surprising resilience related to their less calcified bodies or better physiological buffering capacities. These winners in a sea of losers paint a complex picture of acidification's cascading effects, where ecosystem simplification favors hardy, often smaller species over elaborate reef builders or calcifiers. This shift echoes through food chains, altering predator-prey relationships and habitat structures. What new ocean will emerge from this chemical upheaval? Will it be a gelatinous realm ruled by swarms of simple organisms, or a barren world silenced by lost complexity? The effects of acidification intensify when combined with other stressors: ocean warming, deoxygenation, and pollution. Coral bleaching events, driven by heat, worsen coral mortality beyond the damage of acidification alone. Dead zones expand with warming waters, suffocating marine life already weakened by pH stress. Juggling multiple assaults leaves marine organisms in perilous balance. Those unable to adapt face extinction or drastic range shifts. As adult populations dwindle, larval stages often exploit the void, lingering and reproducing in oxygen-depleted niches inhospitable to others. This ecological vacuum fosters gelatinous swarms of translucent juveniles that outcompete adults and reshape habitats. These ghostly colonies pulse through twilight waters, their dominance an eerie testament to life's adaptability and a sign of ecosystems unraveling. For fisheries and human economies, acidification spells trouble. Oyster hatcheries report mass larval mortalities when waters become too acidic to support early shell formation, costing millions in lost revenue. Shellfish industries globally face unstable production as changing water chemistry disrupts reproductive cycles and growth. Commercial fish species reliant on shelled prey, such as salmon and cod, suffer indirect effects through food scarcity. Such biological dominoes threaten food security for millions who depend on the sea. The socio-economic consequences of acidification grow more urgent with each passing year, highlighting the interconnectedness of climate change, ocean chemistry, and human welfare. What responsibility do we bear for this unfolding oceanic tragedy, and how might we mitigate or reverse it? Scientific research continues to probe the mysteries beneath the waves, using experiments, meta-analyses, and models to forecast acidification's cascading impacts. Meta-studies reveal consistent declines in survival, calcification, and growth across hundreds of species, with heavily calcified organisms hit hardest. Yet, variability exists, species traits predict sensitivity, and some taxa show adaptability or even marginal benefits under elevated CO2. This nuance fuels hope for partial resilience, but also underscores the fragility of marine ecosystems. Carryover effects magnify problems. Larval stress often manifests in weaker adults, perpetuating population declines. The pace of acidification exceeds natural evolutionary adjustments, leaving a sobering challenge for conservation and management. How much time remains before irreversible changes redefine ocean life? In this unfolding drama, the larval giants at ocean's twilight represent both mystery and menace, a biological tipping point born of chemical transformation and evolutionary pressure. They roam gelatinous seas built from skeletal ruins, their eternal youth a bizarre bomb against environmental upheaval. The ocean's future may belong to these translucent monarchs, their reign a testament to survival's relentless creativity and a haunting reminder of nature's vulnerability. As we look deep into the abyss, the question haunts us. Can humanity steer the course away from widespread acidification and its spectral empire? Or are we witnessing the birth of an alien ocean, where larvae rule in endless dusk? The unseen story unfolds, a compelling invitation to explore, understand, and protect the last blue frontier.